In her own words, Maya Angelou was a phenomenal woman, a woman whose legacy is far-reaching, who inspired generations to overcome personal struggles, and not only to survive, but to thrive. Debbie Turner-Bell reports.
Charismatic, passionate, and one of America's leading literary voices, Maya Angelou recorded and celebrated the experience of being Black in America. Her gift was the way she told stories.
If I tell the truth about a Black American situation, a young Jewish boy with braces on his teeth in the Bronx, or a middle-class white woman in Des Moines, Iowa, will understand exactly what I mean.
Born Marguerite Johnson in St. Louis, Missouri on April 4, 1928, Maya Angelou was the daughter of a nurse and Navy cook. Her parents divorced when she was 3 years old, and she and her 4-year-old brother were sent to live with their grandmother in Stamps, Arkansas. That small town, one of America's poorest, was where she experienced firsthand the racial segregation and crippling prejudice of the 1930s Deep South. Maya Angelou wrote about those harsh years of abuse, rape, and oppression in her 1969 memoir, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. It was a time she never forgot, even after becoming a world-renowned author.
Imagine it. A Black girl from a little village in Arkansas, smaller than this little town here, this little village. Imagine it. Now considered one of the most important writers. Imagine it.
The trauma of Maya Angelou's early childhood could not contain her. She walked away from that little Arkansas town and out into the world, where she became a noted dancer, Broadway actress, singer, and world traveler. Through it all, she continued to write and inspire with her words.
What I tried to do with writing is take words, the things that every human being in the world who isn't mute or a recluse, the things, the most common things, take them, rearrange them, and make them come fresh. Arrange them in one way and make people weep, another way and make them laugh. Ball them up like that and throw them against the wall and make them bounce.
Warm and wise, Maya Angelou could also be formidable, especially when participating in the struggle for civil rights. She worked in the South with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and later went to Ghana, where she met activist Malcolm X. Through her activism and her work in television, theater, film, and books, Maya Angelou became known and beloved across America and indeed around the world. Her autobiography grew to 7 volumes. Her poem, On the Pulse of the Morning, was written for President Bill Clinton's inauguration in 1993.
Across the wall of the world, a river sings a beautiful song. It says, "Come, rest here by my side."
Among so many honors, Maya Angelou was awarded the National Medal of Arts and the Presidential Medal of Freedom. At 6 feet tall, she was a commanding figure, but it was the strength of her character, her cooking skills, her love of words, and her laughter that remained foremost in the minds of those who knew her and loved her.
When it looked like the sun wasn't gonna shine anymore, God put a rainbow in the clouds.
Debbie Turner-Bell, Arise News.
Quite an amazing lady. Joining us today is George Faison. He's the artistic director of Faison Firehouse Theater, and he was a close friend of Miss Angelou. Also with us is Monique Pressley, TV host of Breathe Through It. Monique, I'm going to start with you because it seems that through her years and her activism and her poetry, she drew in African-American women in droves. What was that connection about for you?
Well, Dr. Angelou was a voice in the earth, and it was a loud voice for women, not just women of color, women of any and every color, women young and old throughout the earth. heard her story because it was one of victory. It wasn't one of tragedy. She's the one who taught us that if you have tragedy or adversity in your story, it doesn't have to become your story, that you can overcome it, that you can live through it, that you can be made better by it. So that's something that as women, if we're going through any kind of adversity, if we're suffering in family or if we experience the type of trauma that she did as a young age, what Dr. Angelou did for us is she put a voice to it, not one of hatred, but a voice that said, I made it, and I'm better for it, and now I speak love, I speak peace, I speak hope. So that's what she did for me, and I know that that's what she did for the many women and men who loved her.
George, you met her very early in your career,
yes.
and she became a mentor to you.
Absolutely.
And so outside, though, of that direct contact to be inspired by her, let's switch that. How do you think that she reached out to men? How do you think that she inspired them, even though it didn't seem overtly that that's who she was targeting?
I know it was it's a woman's voice, but she was not a victim. And I think that her inspiration for men and women alike are one of triumph, of resilience and resourcefulness. She found within herself a reason to be. So once you find that light inside you, you can go anywhere once you are free of the shackles of maybe of anything, of growing up, where you grow up, or in the particular environment that you're not hindered by any of those setbacks. So she taught, her lesson was one of freedom, developing your voice and speaking, and that way you are free.
All great leaders, whether they're African American or not, have these fears of not being able to get someplace with their people or having their people not get some particular place. What was her greatest frustration in her activism?
The lack of knowledge, actually. Once you know, once you open that book, once you free your mind, once you get inside that universe that the books bring to you, you know what the rest of the world is looking and living like. One thing that I think we as Americans have to understand, that we are the freest in the world, and that the world is indeed your oyster, and you have to go out and meet the challenge of that day. So you can't shirk away or be afraid to go anywhere, but you must go out and meet the world.
When you say the lack of getting to the knowledge, that being blocked to the culture of Africa, or actually us going out and finding that knowledge?
I think you have to open yourself up to that. It's a world out there. We own it, and taking ownership is, I think, the most liberating thing that anyone can do. Taking ownership of your life, developing your voice and speaking out. She was an advocate for the arts, for the Firehouse, and for everything that we did. And if we didn't have that voice, I don't think that we would be as far as we are, and it's brave and courageous.
Monique, she was an international woman, spoke several languages, and of course lived and visited many places. Is there something that you take now with you, that there's something that you would like to do to emulate her legacy for yourself?
Well, I think that everything that I'm doing now is me working to emulate Dr. Angelou's legacy. I agree with George that she was frustrated by people not having knowledge. One of the things she always said, that Oprah Winfrey always quotes, is when you know better, you do better. But one thing she also said was, when you know, teach. So what I'm trying to do for my part is things that I know I'm sharing, whether it's through teaching students or whether it's on radio show or whether it's across a pulpit, things that I've learned for myself. I haven't figured it all out, but whatever I have figured out, in Dr. Angelou's footsteps, she used everything that she experienced in life and helped someone with it. So that's what I'm trying to do in my own, and that's what I'm hoping others will be inspired to do by her as well.
Nobody like her, there's no doubt about that, but do you see, can you name some examples of some up-and-coming Maya Angelou's, or people that you think might step into part of her shadow moving forward?
Well, for my part, I think that no one should. You know, I think that her voice is her voice, and that there is no shadow, that what she did was cast light, And so then Monique Pressley has to be Monique Pressley, and Oprah
absolutely.
Winfrey is Oprah Winfrey, and Ama Asante is Ama Asante.
And Gary is Gary.
Yes.
Fair enough.
Right.
Fair enough. Okay, we have about 45 seconds left. If you could give me some words that describe her to you that you'll leave with.
One of Dr. Angelou took a lot of inspiration from Paul Laurence Dunbar, and The Brown Baby is one of the poems that she would often quote, and little brown baby with sparkling eyes, come to your papa. And it was a warning the children that there's a dangerous world out there, but here at home you are loved, and from here you will go.
Okay, thank you so much, George Faison and Monique Pressley. And thank you for joining us here on Arise Review. For Julian Phillips, I'm Gary Anthony Ramsey. Have a great week.
Into a daybreak miraculously clear, I rise, bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the hope and the dream of the slave. And so, naturally, there I go rising.